Hello and welcome to Women in Mobility, a series where women leaders and entrepreneurs talk about their leadership journey. Today we have Ms. Daisy Chittilapilly, President Cisco India and SAARC region. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you for having me, Divanshu. Pleasure being here.
First of all, I would like to understand about your leadership journey. If you can give some insights, how did it started and what all did you do in your initial days of your career?
This is a this is a this is a question that I always have to think about because no one sets out to be. I mean, I certainly didn't set out to be a leader, and that was not my first go-to. So I grew up in fairly, I think even now can be called maybe a town more than a city in the southern part of India in Kerala, in Trivandrum. Very sheltered childhood, and from school I went straight to engineering college. And my intentions when coming out of engineering college was just to be financially independent and get a job, any job, right? It wasn't even that I wanted. I was very clear about the being in the information and technology industry, right? It wasn't even that in itself was an accident how I went from construction to information technology,
Right.
which was more serendipity than choice. But once I got there, I figured out that I had landed in the mid 90s. The IT industry in India and maybe even worldwide is a sunrise industry, right? It's almost like a startup industry. It's been around for the Indian companies have been around in that space from the early to the mid. That is when the IT companies in India really got founded. So when I joined, it was only 10 years in. And 10 years in is almost like it's a startup industry. 12 years in, almost like a startup industry. So I think the very early on, and maybe it's still a gene in me, it is I've always valued getting exposures, incremental or very dramatically different exposures, because I do think your portfolio of skills and capabilities just expands with every new with every new work assignment or work exposure that you get. So for me, I think in the early days, and maybe it's still the same way, I always say yes when opportunity comes knocking. People say, "Can you do this?" I always say yes, even if that does mean uh, either that it means stretching my day or my week, or it means taking assignments that are considered risky in organizational setups, right? But I've always valued doing that because for me personally, I'm also a learner. Learning, I'm curious and I'm a learner. So it appeals to that personality trait. But I quickly figured out in the early years of my career that more exposures mean more skills, and more skills is always better. So it was not like really leadership, but it's just this your bouquet and your envelope keeps increasing. And when you do this, you also get put into opportunities, and you get put in more and more in front of more and more people who in turn then put more and more opportunities in front of you, right? So it's a wonderful circle. It's a circle
Right.
of goodness, right? Your sponsors, your mentors, that keeps increasing as well. So I can't say that I set out saying that this is where I have to be in so many years. That's not how it started. Actually, it's not that way still, but it's always been a journey of showing up in a role where I think I know 50% of the answers and I don't know 50% of the answers. Constantly putting myself into a state of discomfort and seeing that as a pathway to growth, and growth in leadership as well.
So, according to you, what leadership is like? It's a skill, ability, or a trait, or a combination of each of these.
In every role you do, you need some skills, right? There are some skills which which really recommend your ability to do the job. So yes, I mean there are some skills that you need as part of the job. But I think leadership is more about, for me at least, as you grow in leadership, and even when you are an individual contributor, you are considered a go-to person, not because, yes, because of when you're an individual contributor, your skills are probably the reason people come to you.
Right.
But that in itself won't make people come to you unless you are seen as some being a coach, a mentor, a leader, right? So you have to be, even in an individual contributor, and I say this to many people, that there's this perception of managers as leaders and individual contributors as not leaders. And it's not true. In every team, you will see one person who nobody reports to, but who's a go-to person for advice for everybody else on the team. You might have one or more people. So
Right.
is, there is this, there are these, I think for leaders, I think there are these behaviors that they demonstrate. They have hard skills, yes, but there are these behaviors that they demonstrate that makes them a leader, irrespective of whether people report to them or people don't
Right.
report. And I think a few things in my head, because I look back at my journey and say, why, what are some strengths that I have, or behaviors that I keep demonstrating, because they are my strengths. That's why I keep demonstrating them also. So people who have I mean, in my mind, I think clarity, right? The ability to cut through a lot of clutter and provide clarity, I think, is something that leaders, some leadership, at least for me, that is some behavior that I see demonstrated time again and again in leaders. I see leaders because um, they have huge conviction about what they are doing and about what they want people around them to do. So they're constantly trying to influence people to do things because they're hugely convinced about this huge conviction about what they want to do themselves and what they want other people to do with them. So there's this huge sense of conviction and belief that they have around everything that they do. And that, it's viral. That conviction is very viral and important for anybody in a leadership position. The third, I think, is that they have, they're very good. Leadership is all about followership. So
Right.
one of the ways you build followerships, and what are you building followership? You have conviction about your ideas, but then you're trying to build followership for your ideas. And followership for your ideas comes from being able to communicate those ideas to a broader set of people internally within your company or externally within an ecosystem. So I think communication skills, and this is not about using fancy words, but communication skills, it's very hard to see someone who's in a leadership position who also cannot communicate effectively to their set of stakeholders, right? It's very, very difficult. You take any leader, you'll find
Right.
this is a demonstrated strength over and over again. And I think the last two perhaps, uh, courage. Leaders are not popular people, right? They often do things which are against they are. There was this quote I read many years ago that said, "You'd see a leader by the number of arrows on their back," and I thought that stuck with me because leaders are not popular people. They have the courage to say the things that need to be said and to make the decisions that need to be made. So they're not chasing popularity. They're usually chasing the right thing to do for their business and for their teams. So it takes an inordinate amount of courage to be able to do what is the right thing for the business, the right thing for the team. And the last one, which I think has certainly been driven home in COVID times, is huge change agility. So there's ability to learn and unlearn at speed, and maybe even fail at speed. We denote leaders with people who are always successful, but people who can live with equal amounts of or more amounts of failure than with success is important in the VUCA world. And COVID will not be the first disruption. So I think huge amounts of change agility, leaders were very comfortable, um, leading through high amounts of change. And then the other aspect, which I think has always been, now there's a lot of conversation around it, right? Leaders are people with more EQ. EQ is more important in leadership. But I think in the COVID situation, people who lead with empathy and compassion. I think that those are two characteristics that the leader of today and tomorrow definitely we need. You cannot be a high IQ and low EQ and low empathy and low compassion kind of leader. So I think that's why I said skills are important. In every job, you have to have skills. That's the baseline. But I think these characteristics and these strengths that demonstrate in themselves time and over again makes for great leaders. And I think I see bits of that in myself as well.
So, from a point of view of mobility sector, what are the areas you think leaders should focus on, seeing the rapid transformation currently we are seeing in this particular area?
Yeah, I think one is definitely this mindset that I talked about, right? Leaders are You shouldn't be afraid to get it wrong, because with the amount of transformation and change that is happening in any industry, and mobility certainly as well, one must be willing to fail more often than one is okay to succeed. So this mindset about learning and unlearning and failing fast is very, very important. And the reason I call it out for mobility in particular is because in sectors, in startups, if I was talking to a set of startup people, maybe we don't need to talk about it. If you're talking about a sector that has remained virtually unchanged, which is taking people from point A to point B, then this
Right.
may be a bit more. The tried and tested formulas may not hold us in good stead for the future. So it's unlearning and relearning at speed is important, and the comfort around making mistakes is very, very important. I think I advocate this for all leaders, but the digital first mindset. You have to be very, very comfortable living in a digital world. So half the time you're living in the physical world, and half the time you're living in the digital world. And you have to be able to think about all your assets and processes as an integrated whole. So that comfort. So thinking digital first and thinking about digital and technology that can disrupt, that can enable, that can be an enabler, but more importantly can be an accelerator or a disruptor. So constantly having that 360 view outside your business, more importantly, to see from where your closest partners and competitors are emerging from, and they may emerge from very different spaces than the one that you are typically keeping your eye on. And because you are going into this digital world, you will also have to, as a leader, constantly look for the kind of talent you will want to bring in and the kind of people. So the kind of people that you staffed your teams with previously may not and unlikely to be the mix of talent that will be required for the future. So just redefining what are the kinds of skills and what are the kinds of people that we want in the business is also important. A culture that is very much centered on empathy, on compassion, which not just looks at the status of your, so purpose has become not just profit, right? For businesses, for many, many years, profit has been the guiding North Star. But now purpose is an equally and more important guiding North Star, because purpose is what your employees and your external stakeholders are aligning around. They are not so much aligning to how much money you make as a business, but really how are you good for the consumer, how are you good for the country and the city you're living in, and how are you good for the planet, right? So purpose, the purpose of your company and how it aligns to your broader set of stakeholders will make or break companies. So it's important to have a culture which is focused on that as much as it's focused on the bottom line. And then, yes, collaboration. The new world is calling for collaboration in ways that we have never dreamt. So in the morning, the person is a competitor. In the afternoon, they are a partner, right? So the world of cooperation, which has again been an idea for a long time, again come of age, and you look for collaborators and partners even across competing ecosystems or across ecosystems that are very diverse from the typical and traditional ecosystem. So I think those are the 4 or 5 things I would say for the mobility industry.
Okay. What else can be done to attract women workforce in this sector? Because typically this sector, there is this sector, where women are unrepresented. So what things can be done?
I think intentionality is working. I think this recognition that 49% of India's workforce could be women, and India is today struggling in the 20s, and transportation should be indicative as a sector, mobility as a sector should be indicative of the general population of the world and the country, which is a 50-50 representation. I think it begins with that intentionality. I am very enthused by the examples I see, Dipanshu. There's a long way to go, but I really like it that, it was not very long ago that we used to have this picture in the papers on Women's Day that Air India flew an all women flight from point A to point B, right? And now, very often, and I've not been doing a lot of flying. So even on the odd flight that I'm taking in the last 24 months almost, an Indigo flight is the pilot and the co-pilot is a woman, and all the staff are also women, right? So it's become kind of. I mean, I notice. I don't know how many people are even noticing. I notice every time on a flight like that, and
Right.
these flights have become quite common, right? We are. I mean, I just read about Hey Didi, which is a Mumbai-based last mile delivery app founded by a woman hiring only women. Amazon has 2 delivery centers. One is in my hometown, the other is in Chennai, which are all women as well. Uber is consistently reporting their driver mix going up in favor of women. The first chairman of IWI India is a woman. So, I think intentionality is a good way to start, right? Find, and I look to a future, when I hear about, we have this game at, we keep talking about this at Cisco, where we say, if vehicles go autonomous, maybe the truck driver of the future or the rocket, will be a woman sitting behind a desktop. Why not? Right? Some of that, the technology is a great equalizer. It's a great leveler. So there are very, very interesting options in this space. But I think that's one piece of it, right? It will level the entry barrier for women in many of these spaces will become lower with technology. So I think that's one good thing. But I think also as an industry, enabling environments, work environments is important. So for women particularly, I think safety continues to be, the concern when coming into a workforce. So how can you have a work environment that is very obviously perceived as safe by women? That is the first thing. I think simple things like having bathrooms and hygiene, that is important.
Right.
That's true for men. So the environments are harsh. So anything we can do to make these environments more inclusive, not just for women, but for maybe even the disabled, as a differently able people, also an option. And like I said, mindset, maybe more than anything else, the intentionality and the mindset that we need to bring more women into this space, and bringing more women in makes the sector more, like it is a proven thing for every other sector, that this makes the sector more efficient and productive in the long term, and you're getting access to a labor pool that you never had access to before. So it has to, as you need all of these skills and you need more of these types of people, and these people can come from anywhere in the country, sitting out of 50% of the population seems like a really stupid thing to do. So, and I can't see an Indigo flight that is taken off being any different than, a flight that was traditionally manned only by men. I can't tell any difference, right? So you get the chance to put more planes in the air, you get the chance to put more trucks on the road. Why wouldn't that be a good thing in a country where logistics inefficiency is very, very high? So yeah, I know this is, as you can see, a topic that gets my juices flowing, but I'll pause there, Dipanshu.
Very rightly said. And one last question. What is your message to young women leaders, looking to make career in the mobility sector?
My advice to women who are looking to make a career and leadership career is the same, irrespective of sector. Skill up, speak up, and get up. Right? What that means? Skill up is very simple. Speak up is also very simple, right? Don't expect other people to make your case for you. Feel free to share your ideas and fight your battle. Nobody can represent you as well as you can, and the value you bring as well as you can. And the last one is get up, which was, despite everything, we are the country we are, and women's representation in any sector, including mobility, is what it is. There will be a few knocks. There will be people along the way and things along the way that will knock us down. When that happens, just get up and continue on your path, like that drop or that fall never happened, and eventually you will get to whatever is your North Star. And the North Star keeps changing, so you'll keep going through the cycle, right, of scaling up, of speaking up, of getting up again and again. It's a constant. As long as you continue to keep your journey going, you'll have to continue to keep doing these things, and I hope it does get easier as you get into it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for lovely insights. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much, Dipanshu, for having me today.